Today, we are going to preserve some memories in heirloom style through quilting, and we are joined by Laura Rogers, who is the owner of Crafty Quilting Designs right here in the Midlands. Thanks so much for being with us.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could come.
Tell us about your business and how you got started with quilting.
Okay, so long story short, I've been sewing since I was a little girl, but my mom had to find something to do when her husband passed back in 2012. So she shared, of course, a YouTube video, Laura, look at this. And I realized how easy quilting is compared to creating clothes, what I was doing before.
Right.
So I started quilting, and then once I made my first quilt, I was actually hooked.
Yeah.
And then I got into designing, and I was like, oh, all these things I can do. So
right.
Yeah, so that's how I got to where I am today.
I love that, and I love how it seems like quilting can be very flexible, and there are a lot of creative things that you can do, and there are quite a few services that you offer, so tell us about those.
Right, so first and foremost, I do memory quilts, but my memory quilts are slightly different because I have the capability of printing onto fabric. So I can take photos, print them onto fabric, as well as handwritten letters. You know, we've had several wars over the past, couple decades.
Right.
So, we can take those and put those onto fabric as well, which writing on paper is a whole lot easier than writing onto fabric because ink tends to bleed on fabric. It does not on paper. So it's easier just to transfer those onto fabric once they've been written. And then we take those memories and put them on a quilt, and it can literally last for generations.
Memory quilts is a big thing, and then long arm quilting. What is that?
So long arm quilting is what we do for other quilters. It's an actual process of finishing the quilt. So long arm quilting is literally a great big huge, usually long table. Mine is 12 feet wide.
Wow.
So it can actually carry a king size quilt with no issues whatsoever. Wow. And it's a very large sewing machine, basically, with what we call a hopper foot, and you move the machine on top of the quilt and it will stitch together.
Awesome. And I know that you also do custom designs. So
yes.
Would that be for someone who maybe wants a quilt for their home and are not quite sure, can't really find the style that they want?
Correct. So you can shop at Home Goods, Walmart, everybody has quilts, but they're pre-made. You might not necessarily find what you're looking for specifically. It is more expensive, of course, to do a custom design because you do pay for an individual's time versus a factory and everybody else that's inputting in that design. But it can also be a custom design for a specific purpose. Say, for instance, you want a table runner with a specific design, not necessarily for a bed.
Okay.
You want a wall hanging. You want a throw for your couch. You want placemats to match that table runner. You want little coasters or even mug rugs, which are a little bit larger than a coaster. So many different options in the custom design.
So you offer also for people, I guess, who already quilt, you have patterns that you've made.
I do, yes. I do have them on my website, but I do also have an Etsy shop that they're digital downloads. My website doesn't have that capability just yet. We're working on it. So literally people from all over the world, a lot of people from the UK and Australia have purchased the pattern. So, well, several patterns that I have, So
how difficult, is that for you to come up with a pattern? Is there any math involved, or what's kind of the process?
Oh, there's a lot of math, so I hope you like geometry.
I do not. I'll leave that to the professionals.
So quilting is like an exact science. So whenever you come up with a design and you plan on putting it together for it to match the design that you created, your seams have to be exactly 1/4 inch.
Okay.
If they go off and you go 3/8 of an inch, which is just 1/8 of an inch off, it's not that much, but it can make a difference in the overall effect of the quilt. So it is very exact. When I come up with a pattern, the designing process, I can do that while I'm watching TV or whatever. And once I get a quilt design, then I break it down into steps on, okay, what would I need to do to make it? And I just put that in writing, and that creates the pattern for somebody else to follow.
Wow.
Yes, it's a lot. It could take probably a week to write up a pattern.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so that's quite an undertaking. So once you write up a pattern, do you use any of your own patterns? I guess you probably would,
I
right?
do, yes.
Yeah.
If I create a pattern, very much like somebody creates a painting or somebody writes a book, things are copyrighted. So if I were to take somebody else's quilt design, I would not be able to write a pattern without their written permission, because a lot of things are copyrighted. And also, me ethically, I would not want somebody doing that to me,
Right.
so I'm not going to do that to anybody else. So yeah, the patterns I have written are my own designs.
Okay, so after you write the pattern, how long would it take you to make a quilt? How long does that typically take?
If I have all I need to make the quilt, fabric, etc., the right color thread, it could take as little as a couple days if it's a small quilt. A king size quilt might take 2 or 3 weeks to make, you know, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah,
it really depends
I'm sure.
on the intricacy of the pattern, the size of the pieces. I made a queen size recently that had 1-inch pieces.
Oh,
and
wow.
it had over 2,000 pieces.
Oh my gosh.
So that one took, and it was just a queen size, but it still took me a good 3 weeks to make it, yes.
Yeah, so what does a typical day look like when you're busy quilting away?
It depends on what I'm doing that day.
Yeah, I'm sure
I'll put it
every
this
day
way.
can be
So
a little different.
my routine is whatever order I have coming in, that's what I concentrate on.
Okay.
And I will not have several different quilts started. I start and finish before I start the next.
Okay.
So say for instance, you order a quilt, a custom design. We're going to work together to create that design for you. That might take a couple days, it might take a week. It's going to depend on my designing according to what your vision is. Okay. Once we agree on that design, then I order all the fabric, and then it'll take a week or 2 weeks for me to actually put it together. So that whole process could be, you know, 4 weeks maybe, potentially. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for that fabric to come in, once I've ordered it, if I have an order that I had already started, then I will finish that before I actually start on yours.
Okay.
So my day to day depends on the day.
Well, we've learned everything that it takes to be a quilt designer, or a lot of the things, but we want to actually see this in action. So today we're going to make a memory quilt. Stay with us after the break.